Today I wanted to talk about this device I bought a few years ago and admittedly had not removed it from the box until last week. It's made by Wheelrite. It's a wheel and tire simulator, and I'm in the market for some new wheels and tires, so the mystery is always really related to backspace. So this device I've got mocked up here. First and foremost, you got to get it mounted flush with the brake drum. In this case, with 3 wheel nuts. You see, it's pretty firmly mounted. Next thing you do is pick the diameter of your wheel. In this case, you see it's all the way at the minimum. This setup will do 15 to 22 inch diameter wheels. You can do even greater with this little extension device, and this will go all the way up to 30-inch wheels. So you can see I'm in the old school, apparently minority, but we all know that's not really the case because most of these I assume, are done with muscle cars, but who knows? I'm kind of stuck in the past, and that's the only thing I think about. So after you do the wheel diameter, again, I got mine at 15. Before I even mess with the wheel width and backspace, I want to consider the tire. In this situation, I'm considering 275, that's in millimeters, width, 60, which is the sidewall ratio to the width. So 60% of the width would be the sidewall height, and then 15, of course, is wheel diameter. So 275, 60, 15. All right, so I have to look up the tire spec, and 275, 60, 15 tire is 28 and a tenth, right? So I made sure that from the floor to the center of the axle shaft was at least half of that, so 14 and change, right? So I got mine a little bit higher. The reason that's important is because you have to adjust this wire, which really is nothing more than, I'm guessing this one's like a number 14 solid electrical wire. So you want to get that bent to the overall height. Not only that, but you want to get the width right. So in tires, there's 2 widths. There's the section width. The section width is basically the ballooned portion, right? This one's 10.7 inches, so I've got it stretched out. And then the tread, in this case, isn't that important, but the spec had called out for 8.9 inches, so I more or less eyeballed it. It's a little bit easier to do with the bias ply tire because they've got such more pronounced shoulder from the tread to the sidewall. So got that mocked up, and now we can move on to our tire or our wheel width and offset. So I spin this around, get it in the light, you'll see it a little bit easier. So the width gauge is right here, and I don't know if you can see the little nub. This one's set for 9 inches, right? So remember, wheel width is measured from the inside of the bead, right? So a 9-inch wheel more than likely is going to be 10 inches overall. So I've got that set for 9, and then down here is our backspace gauge. Again, it's got a nub. You can see this one's set for 4.5 inches, which coincidentally is a neutral offset wheel, right? So if you've got a 9-inch wheel, dead center is 4.5. That's where our mounting flange is going to be. So dead center in the wheel. If our our backspace was, let's say, 3.5, that would give us a negative offset, which would push our wheel out further, right? Because the back side of the wheel is only being 3.5 inches inset, and then the remainder of that, I guess, would be 5.5. out towards your wheel lip, right? So that's negative offset. Positive would be the opposite. A positive offset wheel is more like a modern wheel where it's basically flush. So the majority of that wheel is hidden in the wheel tub. Old school days, deep dish wheels is negative offset. So anyways, we've got our width and our offset set. We got our height set, our tire section width set, and our tread width, which again doesn't really mean a whole lot. The important thing is now we want to check our clearances. So I'm going to spin this to the nearest inside obstruction, which would be our leaf spring. And I'm going to measure to the outside of that wire, which in this case is plenty of clearance. That's a full inch. So I'm happy with that, right? So I'm going to mark that down. And then I'm going to spin this around and we're going to check our wheel lip. This could be a little bit tricky. You know, in the case of this rounded sidewall, it's kind of hard to eyeball. You know, you could kind of throw this up there and say, oh, that's about an inch too, but to be safe, I would take a torpedo level and throw it up there. And watch your bubble, line it up, and then measure from the side of that torpedo level to the wheel lip. So you can see that's probably about 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less, which is pretty good. So that wheel and tire would definitely work in this case. For this look, I'm trying to go for the greatest negative offset I can. In other words, the deepest wheel. And also keeping it somewhat aesthetically pleasing. In other words, I don't like to see a tire that's, you know, looks like it's rubbing, or it looks like it was apparent somebody had to trim the wheel lip. So it's a balance. It's a kind of a dance you got to do. But that's also the fun. It's also the fun of hot rodding. In this case, I was able to do a 295 with a 9-inch wheel, 4.5-inch backspace, 12.22 inches wide section width. If I was a gambler, I would try this, but really 1/16 of an inch to the wheel lip and 1/8 of an inch to the leaf spring, that's a little too close for comfort. So 295 is a cool width, but really I don't think that's necessary in this case, especially since I'm going from a, you know, old school G60-15. I think a 275 will look pretty good. It's a little bit taller, but you know, I guess on the freeway, I'll be reaping some benefits there, maybe with some mileage. Bottom end might be a little luggish, maybe, but yeah, whatever. If I don't like it, I can always throw them on the shelf and get another set. It's kind of like changing shoes, you know? So anyways, that's all I got for now. Thanks.